In today's video, I want to just kind of try and maybe give a little bit of hope and encouragement. I've dealt with depression my whole life, and yes, I am a Christian. And I had it somewhere in my head that if people struggled with depression, it was because they somehow sinned or something like that. But there's a lot of things that happen in life that have nothing to do with sin, and sometimes people who kind of just pick and choose what to believe in the Bible and what not to believe in the Bible will try and make people who struggle with depression feel guilty for struggling. And I think it's important that we just kind of learn to forgive those people and let it go. And I'm doing this video to maybe try and help other people to heal. I still struggle with it, but I found a lot of healing through the process. Some things happened when I was a kid, and it really caused a series of events to happen. Anxiety attacks I started having when I was 12, 11, somewhere in there. I started looking at pornography when I was 9. I started having depression when I was 7. It was just a whole big long thing. And unfortunately, the people in the church, the people who should have, helped me to maintain that certainty, instead condemned me for it. I'm not bitter about it. I've moved on. You really can't live your whole life resenting people who have done you wrong. But with that being said, I remember sometimes when I was about to kill myself, and I just didn't see any hope. I didn't see any reason not to. I didn't see any purpose for life. And it wasn't necessarily that I had the hardest life in the world. It just, I didn't feel like I was important. I didn't feel like anybody cared. I didn't feel like there was any hope for tomorrow. And I just remember in all those times there was literally no one else there for me. And I just remember God making himself known to me. And I know that a lot of people nowadays kind of look down on that. Oh, well, God is a crutch. Well, I don't know. Maybe he is a crutch. I don't know. But either way, it wasn't doctors that saved me from death all those times. It wasn't people who were there for me. It was God. I remember very, very, very clearly just this feeling on my chest. It was like a hand. And it was like, I can't describe it, but it was, I can't describe it well. I can describe it, but not well. It was like a hand on my chest. It just said, stop. Just wait. And I remember being so angry with God. God, why don't you just take it away? Why, if you're real, why won't you just fix this? And I just remember that feeling like, just wait. Wait for what? What? This is pointless. This is hopeless. Whatever. And I just remember, wait. And I'm so glad I did. And if you are contemplating suicide, I want to encourage you, do not wait to get help. Get help right now. There are anonymous numbers. There are people all around you. Just don't do it. Some people will completely overcome and some will not. You are not better than them. You are not worse than them. We are all unique. We all have our own struggles. I don't know why that happens. That's just the way it is. But some will completely overcome depression. Sometimes people will, get depression and it resolves itself and hey, problem solved. Some people will just have it all throughout their lives. There are many causes for depression. Sometimes it's more of a mental thing, like an imbalance or something, where it's just like if you were born with born blind, or if you were born with seizures or something like that, where it's just you were born without not trying to offend anybody, but without things going like they should up here. Sometimes it's physical. We can sometimes do things that cause ourselves to not be happy, such as eating a lot of junk food, that kind of stuff. Not getting enough sun. A lot of times people who live in places like where they're real cloudy, and maybe rains a lot sometimes, that can cause people to feel very depressed. And there's not much you can do for that except for maybe move. You can take, vitamin supplements that sometimes help, but sometimes it's better to just move. Sometimes it is spiritual. If you are not at peace in your heart, it's going to be very difficult to have a reason to continue through depression. Sometimes it's situational. This type of depression is usually temporary. For instance, there'll be someone who you love that dies, that they pass, and it hurts. And then the pain doesn't go away with time. It's just you learn how to manage it with time. And every once in a while it'll kind of resurface and just overwhelm you for a little bit, and then it'll kind of mellow out again. And then every couple months or years, maybe on an anniversary for instance, it'll just keep coming back up. These are all normal. Don't think that you're the only person in the world who struggles with these things. I mean, there's a lot of people out there struggling with some very similar things. Don't ignore it. The majority of the time, problems don't just go away if you ignore them. The exception to that is if you're in leadership. A lot of times in leadership, if you don't instantly try and dictate everything, things will oftentimes resolve themselves. Not always, but a lot of times. But with physical health, and make no mistake, our minds are part of our bodies. So having something like depression is no different than having cancer. Having a wounded spirit, having a spirit that is not at rest is no different than having a body that is sick. We are, no matter how you look at it, we are combined in this one body of mind and body, spirit and body. There's just this glue of what we all are together, and what we try and do is we try to remove aspects of ourselves. But unless we really face the issue and resolve it head on, our chances of success and victory just really are very limited. Possible, but limited. So don't ignore it. You have to deal with it. It's not going to just disappear. In a lot of depression, especially stuff like bipolar, there's stuff called manic and depressive. What that means is that you'll go through these stages of being happy and excitable, and depressive and downcast. It kind of goes back and forth between the two extremes: extremely happy, extremely sad. These are shown in different things. The depressive state, you'll stay in your bed a lot. You won't feel like getting up. You'll feel like quitting your work. You won't want to talk to people. And then in the manic stage, you'll want to get up. You'll want to clean. You'll want to invite people over. You'll want to cook. You'll want to do all kinds of stuff. Now, these switches between manic and depressive can last just a few minutes. For instance, you'll be feeling, oh man, today's a new day. I just have such hope. And then 5 seconds later, you'll say, never mind. Or it can last months. The problem is in thinking that the times that it lasts for just for months, that it will last for forever. But you have to remember that it won't last for forever. And the thing is, it's like a pendulum swing. If you've ever played music, it's like a metronome. Back and forth, back and forth. And here's the thing. You can learn how to kind of control things where it doesn't swing so wide. Maybe where you just lower it to maybe in here, where you'll still go through the manic and depressive stages, but maybe not to such a great extent as you did before. Once again, well, I'll come back to that. The first thing that really, really helps, I know a lot of people say it, but it really does help: exercise. And enjoy the exercise. If you don't learn to do an exercise that you enjoy, you won't stick with it. So with that being said, look around and see, okay, what kind of exercises would I enjoy? For instance, some people like jogging. I hate jogging. If jogging was the only way to exercise, I would never exercise in my life. Never once. I like biking. Some people don't like biking. Some people like just walking. That's okay. Go on a walk. That's fine. Just keep maybe more of a brisk pace. Swimming is a great exercise, really a fantastic exercise. Of all the exercises out there, it's actually one of the greatest. With jogging, for instance, you'll oftentimes mess up your knees and your ankles and stuff, and it just does a lot of wear and tear on your body. Some studies have actually shown that jogging is actually unhealthy for your body because the bit that it does for your leg muscles and for your heart, it makes up for it with the damage that it causes. But swimming, on the other hand, is like the exact opposite. It impacts pretty much your whole body. Great for your heart, and it really is a very low impact because you're in the water. It kind of cushions your body, and it really just great. Different sports are okay. It's just that contact sports can cause a lot of long-term problems. For instance, football, where you'll have knee problems or back problems as you get older, and then you can't ever anticipate if you're going to be tackled wrong or that kind of stuff, or maybe not roll correctly. Obviously, boxing and stuff causes problems, but I mean that's obvious. So just keep an eye on that. Maybe find an exercise, not necessarily sports, that is fun for you. And once again, it doesn't have to be weightlifting and it doesn't have to be jogging. You can look around and just kind of get creative. Some people do different kinds of stretches and stuff. That's good for limbering up, staying loose, maybe relaxing, but not so much for exercise because you really don't. You may learn in stretches to kind of control and that kind of stuff, and breathing and that kind of stuff, but you don't really learn how to. You don't really. There's no health benefit really gained, and what I mean by that is your heart has not improved. There's been nothing that causes your heart to beat. So there's that. Find an exercise that you like. If you get a dog, for instance, this is great motivation to go out and go on a walk. Black Labs, great lovable dogs. That's actually my dog. You can probably hear in the background. She loves running and playing all kinds of stuff, and really just a friendly dog. Get something like that. Get something that you can go out and have a walk. And a dog that will motivate you. Like, hey, let's go on a walk. Hey, let's go on a walk. It's just something that kind of. Dogs have a way of just bringing happiness to situations. Unlike cats. Cats are Satan's way of reminding us that we have to pay taxes. And then here's the thing with diets. Don't go on a diet. Diets are another way of saying I'm going to temporarily avoid a certain food so I can lose body size without getting any healthier. And then as soon as I go off the diet, I'm going to go right back to what I was on before. Don't do that. Diets are nonsense. Everybody claims that they have this great diet, the keto diet, the Atkins diet. That's not how you need to look at it. Look at it as a lifestyle change. You need to change what you eat. Stay away from fried foods. Stay away from way too much dairy, which can cause intestinal issues anyway, so that's probably for the best. Stay away from eating out. These are all great things to stay away from. Really be conscious about what you're putting into your body because that will have effects on you. If you're eating a lot of hot dogs, well, I'm not going out to eat, but I'm eating a lot of hot dogs. Well, I mean, they're not exactly the healthiest things. So you really have to make changes with eating. The issue isn't how large you are. The issue is how healthy you are. Sometimes people think that being skinny is the equivalent of being healthy, and that's just not true. For instance, if that was true, people who bulimic and anorexia, those kinds of people, they would be very healthy, but actually we know that that's not true. There's a lot of wear and tear on their body. Get out. Leave your house. I know this is the last thing that you want to do when you're struggling with depression, but it's absolutely essential not just to get over depression today. It probably won't happen today, but in the future. Okay? You're working towards something bigger and better. Okay? Leave reminders, especially when you're in your manic stages. Leave reminders of that there's a world out there. Maybe buy a picture or something that just encourages you. Maybe a motivational post or something. But just leave little reminders that there's a world out there and there's something to enjoy out there. If you've ever gone on a vacation, maybe those pictures, just something that makes you happy. Maybe a picture of a loved one. Maybe a picture of a loved one who lived a long, healthy life. Maybe a grandma or a great-grandma or something like that. But just leave reminders that there is a world out there. Move in with someone else, or force yourself to converse with people. Go out and talk to people. Send a text. It just takes 5 seconds to send a text. In fact, some of these kids are doing it faster than that. So, it doesn't take that long to send a text. Find people who care about you and that you care about, and don't separate yourself. Sometimes we feel like the whole world is moving us by, and we're separated from the whole world because we've separated ourselves. And you really can't be surprised when there's no one around when you have separated yourself from them. I know it would be easy if everybody just knew that we were in pain and they just came and sought us out, and they did all the work and they did all the legwork. But there has to be a point when you say, I know I feel like this, but I got to go get help. There's got to be a point when you reach out to people. There's got to be a point when you can't put it on everybody else. Because they weren't there for you. People will always let you down. You can't put your faith and trust in people. But just because they let you down doesn't mean that they don't love you. Doesn't mean that they, people make mistakes. Have you ever made mistakes? Well, they make mistakes too. Have you ever forgotten to check in on someone? Well, they do that too. For some reason, when we're going through depression, we kind of hold everybody up to this high standard of perfection and what they should have done for us. And, we could flip that around. And oftentimes, the people who are most critical of others are too critical of themselves. So maybe give people breaks. Don't expect them to know what you're thinking. Don't expect them to know what you're feeling. Don't expect them to know what you're doing. Don't expect them to do something that they couldn't possibly do. I mean, it's just not fair for them. And it also will cause you to get bitter. And the last thing you want in life is to be bitter. So move in with someone else. Find something to get yourself connected with people. Stay away from things that make you antisocial. For instance, playing too many video games. A lot of times people with depression will just stay in their house and play video games. That's good and all. Video games are fine, who cares? But if you are having no interaction with people, even if you're not feeling depression today, you might feel it tomorrow. Depression isn't about what happens today. It's about this kind of overarching series of events. Pornography, because of the illusion of relationship intimacy without actually having relationship or intimacy, it can cause just a very bad introvert, pulling away, that kind of stuff. That's not natural. Binge watching shows, things that just get you off and away from people. These are all things to just kind of avoid, especially like the plague. Pretend like it's a sickness. You need to stay away from that stuff. So some more things here. During the manic phases, set up fail-safes for the depressive stages. Now, what do I mean by that? When you're feeling better, set up things to help you get out of the depressive stages, or at least to help minimize their effects. Maybe ask people to write you encouraging things. Maybe write yourself a note of how you felt. Maybe set yourself goals for the future. In fact, that's a point later on in the list. But just set up those little fail-safes for once the depressive stage hits, or if it does. Because once again, if you look at it as just waiting for the depressive stage to hit, that'll just cause more anxiety, and then it will cause the depressive stage to be worse. You can't live on the edge. You just have to accept today. Don't worry about tomorrow. What can you do today? But then at the same time, you have to build into tomorrow. I know that gets a little bit confusing, but life is sometimes difficult. So set up little fail-safes for yourself. See a doctor. I know I should have mentioned this earlier in the list, but I wanted to make sure that you didn't just write off the things that I was saying. See a doctor, honestly, really. Sometimes we're so stubborn about stuff that could be resolved in a matter of days. And we live with problems for years. My mom had this problem where she was real itchy all the time. Ignored it for years, made herself miserable for years of her life. And then she finally went to the doctor and she found out that she has the liver, I think it's called cirrhosis, or anyways, I forget. I'm not good with names. A liver disease, and that's what was causing her to be itchy. So they gave her medication, and now the itchy is, even when it's there, it's not as bad. So I mean, sometimes we try and be stubborn about stuff, and we just make it harder on ourselves. So see a doctor. Sometimes the easiest fix is the simplest fix. Stay off the internet. Oh my goodness, people can be so mean on the internet. Don't read comment sections of YouTube videos. Don't read reviews of Goodreads books. Don't read status updates on Facebook. Don't read tweets on Twitter. Just stay away. Stay away. Go on Instagram. That's fine. Look at pictures. That's great. Maybe even search in certain things that make you happy, like traveling or something like that. And look at pictures, but don't read the comments or the whatever under the picture. Just stay away from it. Okay? The internet is a dangerous place for someone with depression. We self-diagnose ourselves. Oh, I've got this and I've got this, and then we're convinced we've got cancer or something, and we make ourselves even more upset when it's not. So just stay off the internet, if at all possible, or minimize your time. Minimize your time with screens, anything that has a screen, a phone, a TV, a computer, because screens kind of interact with our brains, and it causes us to. It's almost like doing drugs, and it can cause a lot of problems. So just kind of stay away from that. Maybe substitute that with listening to music or reading a book, just something that kind of gives your eyes and your brain a little bit of a rest. And with that being said, I think that I didn't make a point here because I thought that it was kind of obvious, but just in case you don't know, try and stay away from drugs, illegal or legal. Now, if it's a drug that you have to take, well, that's different. But like. There's always kickback from drugs because you're introducing something into your system that's not a natural occurrence, and so your body tries to compensate. Anytime that there's something like that going on, there's going to be some kickback. But with that being said, sometimes people have terminal illnesses, and they can say, how can I not be depressed when I have this terminal illness? And for those kinds of things, sometimes you have to take certain medications, or if you have cancer, you have to take certain things. I get that. And I'm not trying to say that doctors are evil. I already said see a doctor, take medication. I already said those things. But your situation doesn't have to control your happiness. I hope that makes sense. So you have cancer, for instance, and you're going to die. Well, guess what? Everybody's going to die. That doesn't mean you can't live happy. There's something good that comes when you just accept the situation that you're in. Yes, it's not ideal, but that's how it is, and that's okay. You have to just learn to accept it. Maybe this person's doing wrong. It's okay. It's all right. It's not about could I have had a better life, or could I have had a better spouse, or a better this, or a better that. It's not about any of that stuff. You have to just accept where you're at, and don't worry about tomorrow. Well, tomorrow I'm going to die from cancer. So you're going to spend the rest of your life worrying about the time that you're going to die from cancer? I mean, I'm not trying to be, one-sided here, but enjoy the life that you do have. And spend it with the people that you do love. Don't resign yourself. It's okay that I'm depressed because I'm going to die anyways. You see what I mean? Like, there has to be a point when you say, today, I'm alive. Watch the sunset. I mean, smell the flowers. Enjoy the little things. Next, don't make any rash decisions. When you feel depressed, oftentimes you feel kind of like you're in a husk. Where you don't really feel like doing anything. You feel disconnected from everybody. You feel and think things that aren't true. And oftentimes, it can cause irrational actions and emotions in the extreme. Like, instead of just slightly irritated, extremely mad. And that causes us to do stupid things. Like attacking people, telling our spouse that we want a divorce, yelling at the kids, stuff like that. But you have to just learn to not make any rash decisions. Don't say anything rash. Just kind of, if you can't say anything good, just kind of close your mouth. It's okay to be quiet. If you're trying to stop yourself from saying something that you probably shouldn't say, it's okay to be quiet. So don't make any rash decisions. I'm going to quit my job. Well, why? Hold on. If you quit your job, then you're not going to have money. Then you're going to be more depressed. Not a good idea. Just stay away from rash decisions. Next up on the list, get a job or find a purpose of some kind. Find something to do. Something that you do every day. Oftentimes, people have depression. Not everyone. Not everyone. I have a job. But oftentimes some people who have depression, they sit around their house all days and then they feel depressed. Well, I'm sorry, but it doesn't matter how nice of a house you have. If you sit inside all day with your little, fort, you're not going to be happy, especially if you're spending the whole time on social media. I mean, that's just you're not going to be happy. People need a reason. They need a purpose. They need a drive. Even atheists who don't believe in God have a drive. You know what I mean? Like maybe they're seeking answers in science or something like that. Something that everybody has a drive of some kind. Some people have had the drive to conquer other people. Some people have had the drive to invent. Just whatever. Find a purpose. Find a reason. Maybe help other people who are going through depression. Now, that's a great thing to do. Instead of focusing on the negative sides of depression, focus on the positive sides. I can help other people too. Hey, we're both broken, but we can be broken together, and we can help each other. So, get a job. Something to keep you active during the day, even if you don't need the money. It's not about the money. It's about having a purpose in life. So oftentimes, well, I'm on welfare. If I get a job, I'll lose my welfare. What's more important? Having the government pay your way or getting victory on your depression? Because sometimes you can't have both. And yeah, you might lose your welfare, you might lose your food stamps. I admit that's going to suck. But it's going to suck even worse to live with depression and not do anything about it. So listen to music that is encouraging. Maybe stay away from death metal. Maybe stay away from Eminem. Maybe stay away from, certain pop culture artists that are just maybe not the most encouraging. For instance, let's say you lost your loved one, and it's Valentine's Day, and you're listening to a bunch of romance music. Well, that's going to make you feel sad. So, that's just not a good thing to do. So listen to music that is encouraging, something that's upbeat. Stay away from things that are downers. Alcohol is a very big depressive. You just shouldn't be drinking if you have depression of any kind. Stay away from alcohol like the plague. Stay away from sad music or too mellow of music. I actually have a band that I listen to. They're called Project 86, and it's like, I don't know what kind of genre they are. I have them categorized as intense because it's like being punched in the right in the teeth. It's just really intense music, and it helps me to not be depressed. It helps me to kind of get up and, go. Don't watch emotional movies. Stay away from those, movies that, the sad endings like Perfect Storm and stuff, where it's just everybody dies, or the animal movies like, where the animals die at the end. I don't have to draw a list of that, but just you kind of have to just watch out for what's going in your ears and your eyes. Pray and read your Bible. I know Christians always say this, but really there's something that happens. I did a test, and I don't really remember. I think it was about 2 years. I read the Bible every single day and prayed and stuff. But then for 6 months I said, okay, now no Bible, no prayer. For 6 months. I believe it was 6 months. Once again, I'm not positive about the exact days. It's not like I kept an exact tally. But within those 6 months, I felt more discouraged. I felt more distance from people. I didn't want to get involved with activities in the community or in the church or anything like that. And we're talking about 2 years of building, and in 6 months, I noticed a visible change in myself. Now, if I notice the change, how much more likely is it that other people notice the change? So pray and read your Bible. Now, I'm not talking about those cutesy prayers, those ones where you pray for 5 seconds and then everything's supposed to be better. I'm talking about where you break through to God, where you've been praying for hours and days and weeks, and you're just crying out to God, and you're letting yourself be real and intimate with the creator of the universe. There's just something powerful that happens in that moment. And God starts to change you. Even if the situation never changes, God starts to change you, and that is infinitely better than God following after you and changing all the situations. In reading your Bible, the Bible gives us hope. It it reminds us that there's things in the world, like the book of Philippians, for instance, where here's Paul, he's been beaten and mistreated for years, he just had a heck of a hard time, everything seems to go wrong, he's in prison when he's writing the letter, and it is the most encouraging book of the whole Bible. Or you take the book of Psalms, where it's people who are going through things that they don't understand, they don't like, but they're still just crying out to God. A book literally of prayers, literally of songs to God from their troubles. Now that's something very encouraging. Sometimes we say, well, how do you pray? Well, look, read the book of Psalms. I mean, you don't have to have the perfect prayer. I mean, you have some of the Psalms where it says, oh, I wish that they would take their kids and just hit them up against the rocks. It's like, geez, dude, calm down. But they took those things that they felt. Whether they should have felt them or not is irrelevant. They took those things that they did feel, and they took them to God. And there's something great about that spiritual intimacy that causes the physical things to not be so bad too. It causes that pendulum swing to not be so bad, where we try and bottle ourselves up and hide ourselves from God, from people, but there's something that happens in the intimacy. God, I have cancer and this sucks. I don't want to die. I'm not ready to die. You know, and just something about taking that to God, and just the peace that you experience is unlike anything you've ever felt. And you can die happy. And you realize that death isn't the worst thing that could happen. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes we're not ready for it, but it's not the worst thing. Get involved in a community or a group of some kind, a church or 4-H or something. Just get involved in a group. And separate from this, get involved in a support group. These are two different things. Now, I want to specify that because getting involved in a community or a group is like going to church or joining a club. Getting involved as a support group is where you get with other people who are going through similar struggles. Remember, you won't always feel like this. You will have good days. One day you will wake up and you will look outside and you'll realize that the sun is shining and things aren't all bad. You'll realize that there are good things out there. You'll realize that you like the trees, you like plants, you like gardening. You know, you'll realize that there is good in the world. So you won't always feel like this. Okay, and the next thing, practice thought control. Just because you think it doesn't mean you should be thinking about it. Practice controlling the things that you are thinking about. Don't let your mind dwell on things that are depressing. Things that, I mean, let's say, for instance, you're always worried about your death. Don't think about it. Don't think about it. When you're dead, you'll have time to worry about your death. But for right now, you're alive. Don't think about it. Think about something else. Think about something that's better. And the more you practice thought control, the easier it will be. You know, think about things that are good, things that are happy. You know, like instead of maybe reading Fox News or CNN or that kind of nonsense and bullcrap, instead read some stories about the neighborhood kid who rescued a drowning cat, or the person who was walking by a dumpster and found a baby thrown inside, and they rescued the baby, and now it's this, you know, this toddler. You know, read those stories, the good stories. Look at the good part of the world. Yeah, there's war here and there, and all kinds of stuff are happening bad in the world. There's fires and all kinds of stuff. But beyond all, speaking of fires, that's the alarm for a fire right now, or some kind of an emergency. There's all kinds of those things happening out in the world, but there's also good things happening in the world. Look at the birds as they fly by your house. They don't seem to be concerned about all those things. They're just flying around and they're perfectly content. You know, focus on those things. There's good things in the world. Or if there isn't, make something good in the world. Go plant a tree. You know, practice emotion control. Okay, this is, you know that you have emotion control by this. Have somebody sit in front of you and have them smack you in the face. If you've ever seen one of the Hulk movies by Marvel, you know what I'm talking about. Have somebody just smack you in the face and keep smacking you. You're going to start getting mad. You're going to start getting irritated. Controlling the anger. That's what I'm talking about. Just because you feel sad doesn't mean you have to act sad. Just because you feel angry doesn't mean you have to act angry. You know, emotion control. You don't have to do everything you feel or everything that you think. You are not defined by how you feel. Now remember this. Well, I feel useless. That doesn't mean that you are. Well, I have depression. That doesn't mean that you're any less of a person. See what I mean? Just because you feel something doesn't mean that that's the way that it is. You are not defined by how you feel. You are not defined as a person. And your value is not defined by the fact that you have depression. When you see someone who's handicapped, someone who's in a wheelchair, you might think in your head they enjoy a lower quality of life. But their legs working doesn't mean that they have any better or less of a quality of life. It's what you do with your life. I mean, we all have problems here and there, but it's about what we do with that. So besides that, you don't have to let your depression make your choices. Yeah, and in fact, if you up a few points down, you may not be able to control how you feel, but you can control what you do with how you feel. Depression can't control you. It can't make your decisions for you. It can make you feel like doing something, like committing suicide, but it can't make you commit suicide. It's still your choice. You don't have to let your depression make your choices. You don't have to let it run your future. You don't have to say, yeah, because I have depression, I'm never going to connect with someone ever again. Because I have depression, I'm never going to connect with people. Because I have depression, I'm never going to travel and do all those things that I want to do or I wanted at one time to do. I don't feel like doing that anymore. Do you feel like doing anything? Depression oftentimes makes us feel like not doing anything. So maybe the reason why you don't want to do it anymore is because you just have depression. So that brings me to our next point. Write goals down and keep focused on them, even if you don't feel like doing it. Well, I wanted to learn how to play the piano, but I don't know. I don't really want to anymore. Learn anyways. Do it anyways. Why? Because you might die tomorrow. You don't know what tomorrow brings, but today, do something. And who knows, maybe tomorrow, maybe you'll start feeling again. Maybe you'll start being reminded that there was something out there in the world that you wanted to do. Don't let your depression make your choices. Don't let it run your life. Don't let it be everything about you. Make an identity apart from your depression. And even if you never learned to like doing the thing that you started doing, at least you took the initiative to do the thing that you had set out to do in the first place. And that is worth saying something. To stick with something that you didn't feel like you should or could. Look at all the parents who have abandoned their kids. Look at the men who have knocked up girls and just left them. Look at the parents who have said, you know what, I don't want to deal with this child, and just abandon the child. Should they have done that just because they didn't feel like it? See what I mean? What about the times when a husband felt like cheating on his wife? What about the times when you felt like cheating on taxes? It's not about the things that we cheat. It's about what we do with the situation, what we do with the time that's given to us. So, depression can't control you. Buying something to try and make yourself feel happy is not going to work. It's not going to work at all. All you're going to do is you're going to put a temporary band-aid that's going to eventually make you feel worse in the long run, because now you're going to have debt. You're going to have buy something that you couldn't afford, and now you're in debt. That's just not a good thing. So avoid wasteful spending. In fact, probably just get rid of a credit card if you're in debt. You probably just avoid that. Try different things to get your mind off of the situation. Thought control is not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a slow, steady practice of slowly, oh, I'm thinking about something bad, let's think about something else. Well, what do I think about? So, I mean, eventually, throughout the course of weeks and months and years, you eventually learn thought control. But it does take some time. Stay away from gossip, stay away from complaining, stay away from negative people, just until you get your bearings straight. You don't have to separate yourself from the world, but just... You can always impact other people. You can always do your life when you're wounded and when you're depressed, when you are not whole, when you are not healthy. But eventually you're going to have to face your demons. Try fidget toys. They're real good for just, try new hobbies. Learning a language, learning an instrument, something to just keep your mind active. Try a pet. Get something that you like or that you once liked. It's okay if you aren't perfect. That's okay. Nobody is perfect. Don't use your religion to make you depressed. Sometimes, for instance, people look at the book of Revelations and they make themselves real scared and paranoid. Sometimes people look at their religion and say, well, what good is it? I'm going to die anyways. Maybe you're Hindu or something and you believe in reincarnation. Well, what good is it? I'm just going to have to repeat the cycle over again. Stuff like that. Or once again going back to Christians, well, what good does it do to learn, because I'm just going to die and then in the resurrection it won't matter anyways? Well, first off, you don't know what's going to happen. Second off, you still have living to do before you die. And third off, you never know how invaluable that knowledge might be in the present situations. Sometimes we use our religion to give ourselves feelings of inadequacy. Yeah, you are absolutely right. You don't deserve grace. You don't deserve God to save you because He's God. But that doesn't mean you aren't worth anything. In fact, it's the exact opposite. God said that you're worth a lot. God thought you were worth so much that He actually became a man and died on your behalf because you're worth that much. He knew that we were going to sin, and He still created us, and He still died for us, and He knew that people were going to not everybody was going to accept Him, and He still did it. See what I mean? You are valuable. You are worth it. For some reason, we have this idea that just because we're saved by grace, that means somewhere in there that we are completely pointless and irrelevant. What? How do you get that? If we were pointless and irrelevant, God wouldn't have saved us in the first place. So it's okay if you aren't perfect. Don't use your religion to make yourself feel inadequate. You will never deserve salvation. That's okay. You don't have to earn it. Jesus earned it for you. All you have to do is accept. Okay? Let's just kind of put that argument to rest. I'm not enough. Well, stop and actually think about what you're saying. You're not enough for what? You're a person, therefore you're enough to live. You're enough to have a voice. You're enough to be important to someone. Our physical ailments, mental ailments, these kinds of things, they don't make us any less of a person, any less important. So, let's stop for a second and just ask yourself, what do I mean by I'm not enough? And if you've had depression, you know what I'm talking about. It's just a blanket statement that defines how you feel. I'm not enough. But if you actually stop and analyze that feeling, you realize that there's no substance to it. It's like when you stand in that mud that just sinks. It looks like there's something there, but if you try and stand in your foot, just sinks through it because there's no substance to it. That's the exact same thing that I'm trying to say. We have this feeling of I'm not enough. What? Of course you're enough. You are important. Your voice matters. What? Your life is important. I don't know if the world is a better place with you in it or not. I don't know if the world is a better place with me in it. But I do know that your life is important anyways, because we're not defined by what we accomplish in our lives. Maybe you think, oh, well, if I just do this, I'll be worthy of my life or something like that. Well, what? God made you, and He made you, and He made you special, and that has to be enough. Your life is important if for no other reason because God made you. He could have made anyone. In fact, He did make everyone you see around you, but He still thought, I'm going to make you too. That seems to tell me that God thought that there was a reason for you, that you have purpose, that at the end of the day, He thought the world would be better with you in it. Now, you might say, okay, well, what about people like Hitler? God loved Hitler, and He made Hitler, and Hitler decided to rebel against God, and Hitler decided to